The fraud department at Chase Bank called me on a Tuesday morning. They asked if I'd authorized $487 in transactions to OF Premier. I said no. That single no unraveled my entire marriage. The money for our daughter's first year of preschool, gone. The dream vacation fund to Maui, emptied. Not by a hacker, by my husband of 7 years, Mark. I had 48 hours before he returned from his business trip to Las Vegas, 48 hours to uncover how deep this digital rabbit hole went and to secure what was left of our life. This is the forensic paper trail of love, lies, and a $50,000 secret addiction. Subscribe and see how it ends. After the call, I logged into our joint account, a Chase Sapphire checking we opened in Chicago after our wedding. My hands were ice. The login felt normal. But then I filtered transactions for the past year, not by category, by merchant. I typed OF. The screen populated. Not one or two, dozens. OF Premier, OF Stars, OF VIP. Dates going back 23 months. The amounts were never huge. $49.99, $79.99, $124.50. Stealthy, designed to blend in with streaming subscriptions and online shopping. My eyes scanned the total for the month. $1,247.68 in 1 month. I grabbed my phone, opening Venmo, which we shared for household bills. I searched Mark to friends. There were payments to names like Jax Tyler 22 and Lena _. Memos for dinner, LOL. Concert tics, $200 here, $350 there, all within minutes of the OF charges on the bank statement. He was using Venmo to launder the larger transactions. I felt a physical nausea. This wasn't a mistake. This was a system, a second secret financial life running parallel to ours. I ran to the home office. He'd insisted on soundproofing during the pandemic. The door was locked. I'd never picked a lock before, but the fireplace poker looked solid. As I wedged it into the door jamb, my phone buzzed. A text from Mark. "Hey babe, flight delayed. Home tomorrow night, love you." The lie burned in my hand. The office door gave way with a splintering crack. His desk was pristine, a MacBook, a ledger, a photo of us at Niagara Falls. I opened the ledger. It looked like a business expense log for his consulting LLC. Micro revelation, client dinners, software, travel, but the amounts didn't match his QuickBooks Online. I cross-referenced a date. Client development, $350. That matched a Venmo to Jax Tyler 22. He was writing off his addiction as a business expense, tax fraud layered on top of marital fraud. I opened his MacBook. It required a password I didn't know, but I remembered his iCloud was linked to his iPad, which he used for recipes in the kitchen. I ran downstairs, grabbed it, and opened his Safari tabs. Micro revelation. He wasn't logged out. Dozens of tabs were open, profiles, wish lists, direct message histories on OnlyFans and similar sites. The language was possessive, delusional. "I'd treat you better than your boyfriend. When are you coming to NYC?" He'd promised trips, gifts, using details from our life as his fantasy currency. My blood went cold. I screenshotted everything, airdropping it to my phone. As the last image transferred, a notification popped up on the iPad. "Your subscription to Lena SVIP renews in 1 hour, $89.99. It was linked to our Apple Pay, which was linked to our joint account. Cliffhanger. I went to cancel it, but my finger froze. Canceling would alert him. I was in his digital world now, and as I stood there, the doorbell rang. Through the sightlight, I saw a woman in a delivery uniform holding a small, discreet box addressed to Mark. I refused the package, citing a wrong address, my heart hammering. Back inside, I called my older sister, a CPA in Tampa. Through hysterical tears, I laid it out. She was silent. Then her professional switch flipped. Email me the last 2 years of bank, credit card, and Venmo statements, now. Also change the mailing address on the joint account to my P.O. box. Micro revelation. While she worked, I pulled our Fidelity investment statements. The $15,000 we'd started for Ella's college fund, he'd taken an early distribution 6 months ago, citing financial hardship. The penalty was $1,500. He'd paid that from our account too. He'd stolen from our daughter twice. My sister called back 2 hours later. Her voice was tight. Sarah, I've traced $47,800 over 23 months. It's not just subscriptions. There are cash advances from ATMs near his gym, PayPal transfers to unverified emails, and purchases from sites selling used content. This is a structured spending pattern indicative of compulsive behavior. Micro revelation. She paused. And it's accelerating. Last month was over $3,000. He's likely using crypto wallets now. You need a lawyer yesterday. This is dissipation of marital assets. In New York, you can get a pre-judgment remedy to freeze the accounts. I felt a terrifying clarity. This was a financial crime scene. I needed an expert. My sister recommended a forensic accountant and a shark of a divorce attorney on Park Avenue. I called the lawyer first. Cliffhanger. Her assistant answered, Rosen and Klein. As I asked for an emergency consult, headlights swept across the living room wall. A car pulled into the driveway. Early, it wasn't a taxi, it was an Uber, and Mark was getting out. I threw the iPad into a drawer, slammed the MacBook shut, and stood in the center of the kitchen, bank statements clenched behind my back. The key turned in the lock. He walked in, smiling, holding a duty-free bag. Surprise, got an earlier flight. Micro revelation. The smile died when he saw my face. What's wrong? I didn't speak. I placed the printed statement on the island, my finger on the OF Premier charges. His color drained from tanned to ashen. Babe, that's a phishing scam. I'll call Chase. I cut him off. I spoke to Chase. I saw the Venmo. I saw the iPad mark. The duty-free bag hit the floor. His denial was a masterpiece of gaslighting. You're paranoid. It's for a client's marketing research. You invaded my privacy. When I mentioned Ella's 529 plan, his rage erupted. He slammed his hand on the granite. It's my money too. You control everything. Micro revelation. In his fury, he let it slip. You think you're so perfect? You have no idea the pressure I'm under. This is how I cope. It's just pictures. Just pictures. A $50,000 2-year tax fraud adjacent, college fund draining secret life was just pictures. I told him to leave. He refused. It's my house. That's when I knew I wasn't safe. The man I loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who saw me as an obstacle to his addiction. I walked calmly to the hall closet, grabbed my go bag and Ella's diaper bag I'd secretly packed hours earlier. Cliffhanger. I'm taking Ella to my mom's. We'll discuss this with lawyers. As I reached for the car keys, his hand closed over my wrist. Not violent, but firm, final. You're not taking my daughter, and you're not ruining my life. The Uber was still idling outside. The driver was a witness. What would he do? He let go. I drove to my mother's in Connecticut, shaking. At 9 a.m. the next day, I was in a sleek Park Avenue office with Diana Rosen. She was in her 50s, immaculate, and had no patience for tears. Good. You're angry. Use it. She had me sign a retainer and an affidavit detailing the financial findings. Micro revelation. By noon, she'd filed an order to show cause in New York Supreme Court, seeking a temporary restraining order freezing all joint accounts and his business accounts and exclusive use of the marital home. The cause? wasteful dissipation of marital assets for a secret addiction, creating immediate and irreparable financial harm. The judge granted it by 3 p.m. My sister, the forensic accountant, delivered her preliminary report, $50,112.76, with a trail. Diana forwarded it to Mark's lawyer. The response was a blustering threat about defamation. Diana simply replied, "We look forward to deposing your client under oath about his marketing research. Discovery will include a full forensic analysis of all his digital devices." The silence that followed was telling. Then an offer. He'd agreed to an uncontested divorce and give me 60% of the house equity if I dropped the dissipation claim and signed an NDA. Diana laughed. "They're terrified. The dissipation claim could get you 100% reimbursement plus legal fees. The NDA is to hide his addiction." We countered. 75% of home equity, full reimbursement of the $50K plus penalties from Ellis Fund, my legal fees paid, and no NDA. His life, his secret would remain an open book in the court file. Cliffhanger. His lawyer called back, voice strained. "My client has additional information about the marital finances he'd like to disclose. Can we meet tomorrow?" Diana looked at me. "He's not confessing. He's setting a trap." Telling my mother was like watching her heart break twice, once for me, once for Ella. My father, a stoic engineer, just kept saying, $50,000? As if the number itself was the betrayal. Then came Mark's parents. They called, not with concern for me or Ella, but with a plea. "Don't destroy his career, Sarah. He has a problem. He needs help, not court." They offered to pay back some of the money if I softened. They'd known. Not the extent, but they knew he had a spending issue. The betrayal by proxy took my breath away. The worst was the loneliness in a crowd. At Ella's second birthday party at my mom's, surrounded by family, I felt like a ghost. My sister handed me a glass of wine. "The forensic accountant found more," she whispered. "He took out a $25,000 personal loan from Lightstream last year. Reason? Home improvement. It's gone, probably in Bitcoin. Another secret debt." That night, I broke down while bathing Ella. She looked up, soap bubbles on her head, and said, "Dada?" It was her newest word. I had to explain that Dada was sick and wouldn't be living with us. How do you explain a sickness of the soul to a toddler? The grief wasn't just for my marriage, but for the father-daughter relationship that was now forever tainted. I checked the home security cameras remotely. Mark was still there, moving through the rooms like a ghost. He changed the Wi-Fi password, a small, petty act of reclamation. As I watched the camera feed, I saw him on the phone, agitated. He walked to the fireplace mantel, took down the family photo from Niagara Falls, and hurled it against the wall. The glass shattered. Then he looked directly at the camera lens, as if he knew I was watching, and pointed at it, a cold, clear threat. Diana had me file a police report for the destroyed property and the threatening gesture. It wasn't much, but it created a paper trail for the judge. She also reported the fraudulent business expense deductions to the IRS using a whistleblower tip. It wouldn't help me directly, but it added immense pressure. We went to the meeting with his lawyer. Mark was there, hollow-eyed. His additional information was a claim that I had authorized the spending, that it was a mutual exploration that I'd later regretted. He'd even forged a dated note on my handwriting on his iPad. "Let's try something fun. Budget $500 per month." The audacity left me speechless. Diana slid a document across the table, a report from a certified digital examiner. "The metadata on that note," she said calmly, "shows it was created 2 days ago at 1:14 a.m. on an iPad whose location was pinged at the marital home. My client was in Connecticut. This is fraud upon the court." His lawyer's face went slack. Mark snapped. He admitted it right there, screaming about pressure and shame. He was ordered by the judge to undergo a psychological evaluation for compulsive behavior. The court also appointed a neutral forensic accountant to take over, sealing the fate of his defense. We left. In the elevator, Diana said, "He's collapsing. The final settlement will be strong. But be ready, a cornered animal is dangerous." I received the court order granting me temporary sole occupancy of the house. I had to go back. I returned with a locksmith. The house was eerily silent. Mark was gone, but in the center of our bed, neatly laid out, was the shattered photo from Niagara Falls, the glass shards arranged in the shape of a heart, a perverse love letter. And on his pillow, a single unfamiliar USB drive. I didn't touch the USB. I called Diana, who sent a tech specialist. In a sterile, isolated laptop, he opened it. It wasn't more evidence against Mark, it was a trove of data he had collected on me. Micro-revelation. Screenshots of my private Instagram stories I thought only friends could see. Logs of my approximate location from Find My Friends he'd never deleted. Saved recordings of our old arguments from his phone. He'd been building a dossier, perhaps to prove I was unstable or to blackmail me into silence. The addiction had morphed into something darker, digital surveillance and control. The tech found keylogger software installed on our home computer a year ago. Mark had known every password I typed, including my email drafts to my sister. He'd known I was suspicious for months and had accelerated his spending to hide it in a flurry of activity. Micro-revelation. The specialist then checked our router history. Mark had been accessing the home cameras remotely for weeks, watching me gather evidence. The day he looked into the lens, he wasn't guessing, he knew. The violation was absolute. My sanctuary had been a panopticon. Diana immediately filed for a full order of protection, citing cyberstalking and harassment. This moved the case from civil divorce into a potentially criminal-adjacent space. The judge was furious at the breach of trust and the court process. Cliffhanger. The order of protection was served electronically to Mark. An hour later, my phone lit up with notifications, dozens of them. Emails, social media login alerts, even my Uber account. Password change requested. He was trying to burn down my digital life on his way out. I didn't panic. I had prepared. Following my tech-savvy brother's advice, I had already enabled two-factor authentication on everything using a new Google Voice number he'd set up for me. The attacks failed. Then I played my final card. With Diana's approval, I drafted a civil lawsuit for intentional infliction of emotional distress and conversion of marital property, detailing not just the money, but the digital stalking, the forged evidence, the psychological warfare. We didn't file it. We sent a draft to his lawyer. The cover note read, "We will file this in 48 hours unless your client agrees to our full settlement terms and enters a 12-month intensive therapy program with progress reports to the court." It was a nuclear option. This suit would be public record, searchable by his clients, future employers, anyone. It would detail the OnlyFans addiction, the fraud, the stalking. It would follow him forever. Within 6 hours, his lawyer called. Mark accepted all terms, 80% of home equity, the market had soared, so this was substantial, full $50K reimbursement, plus the $25K loan debt assumed solely by him, my legal fees, and no NDA. In exchange, we would not file the civil suit, and the dissipation claim would be noted as settled in the divorce decree. He would also begin therapy within the week. I stood in the empty, quiet house after signing the papers. The fight was over. I'd won on paper. I had financial security for Ella and me. I had the house. I had exposed the truth. But as I scrolled through the final settlement PDF, one line in the therapist's proposed treatment plan caught my eye. Diagnosis: compulsive sexual behavior disorder with co-occurring financial impulsivity. The lawyer had attached it, and the therapist's clinic name was familiar. I Googled it. It was the same clinic his parents had donated to last year. Was his recovery just another performance funded by the same enabling system? The divorce was finalized 4 months later. I sold the house, using the equity to buy a smaller, brighter condo in a different school district with no memories in the walls. I changed my last name back to my maiden name. Micro revelation. Mark completed his court-ordered therapy, sending the reports. They seemed genuine. He got a new job in New Jersey, farther away. Our custody agreement is strictly via a court-monitored app for communication and exchanges at a police station. He sees Ella every other weekend. He's polite, distant. The digital leash is gone, replaced by a cold, bureaucratic cord. I started seeing a therapist of my own, specializing in betrayal trauma. I learned about financial infidelity and its deep, lasting scars. I opened new accounts in my name only. I check my credit report monthly. Trust is now a forensic process, not a feeling. Final revelation. A year after it all ended, I got a letter from the IRS. It wasn't addressed to me, but to occupant. It was a notice of a tax lien against Mark for the disallowed business deductions and penalties. They'd pursued it. He owed over $18,000. The system I'd inadvertently triggered had its own justice. I felt no joy, only a grim validation. The paper trail always wins. My life is quieter now. Ella is thriving. I found a remote job in project management that lets me be present for her. The fear has subsided, replaced by a vigilant peace. I date cautiously. On a second date recently, a nice enough man joked about wasting money on stupid subscriptions. I didn't flinch. I just asked, calmly, what kind of subscriptions? And I watched his eyes very, very carefully. The lesson wasn't just about checking statements. It was about understanding that in the digital age, betrayal isn't always in a hotel room. It's in the subfolder, the crypto wallet, the VPN, the recurring charge disguised as something else. It's the person sleeping next to you, financing a secret life one click at a time, while you dream of a future they've already sold. This is an anonymous confession, AI narrated, but based on real experiences shared online. Names, locations, and identifying details have been changed for privacy. The emotional truth remains. Subscribe to Reddit Sting Stories for daily shocking confessions. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could change how you see relationships. Remember, if something feels wrong in your relationship, trust your gut. Read every document, question inconsistencies, and never ignore red flags.